Kri Foundation presents Hot Theme for a Warm Planet, dance films on environment and climate change. As part of its DanzLenz vertical, for the 12th edition of the Pragjyoti International Dance Festival 2022, organized by Kalpa. The films are curated by Dr. Arshiya Sethi. Please do not record any of the films that are being shown in the showcase, as there are copyright issues involved.
Traveling through various cinematic scapes through dance and camera. Here we arrive at the second part of DanzLenz, where we make an effort towards a dialogue between the dancer and filmmaker. So once again, I would like to invite Dr. Arshiya Sethi to carry forward this dialogue and let us hear from the artists, let us hear from the filmmakers about the whole process, about the whole creation into the making of such cinematic, such scintillating dance films. Over to you, Dr. Sethi.
Welcome to the second part of the curation, Hot Theme for a Warm Planet. And this part is what brings you the conversations with the filmmakers and the dancers. After the wonderful showcase of the Hot Theme for a Warm Planet, we come to the conversations with the filmmakers and the dancers. I'd like to begin by welcoming Ramya Harishankar, who presented the film Bhumika, with which we opened this curation. So welcome, Ramya. I'm so indebted to you because it was your film that started me thinking about this curation. So thanks a lot. So I wonder whether it began as a stage production and the camera came in subsequently, or was the camera work always part of the project since its inception?
Thank you, Arshiya, for including Bhumika as a part of your DanzLenz series, as well as the Pragjyoti International Dance Festival. We're indeed very honored. For the last 2 years, all our presentations have been online. So for that reason, Bhumika was created to be shared on screen, although we're now going to perform it live as well. The credit for filming and editing it has to go to a young filmmaker called Gunindu Abhishekara, who shares our aesthetic and philosophy and has been a true blessing.
Are there organizations that support this sort of work with a focus, and are these organizations environment organizations or dance organizations?
Donna Sternberg, a Los Angeles-based contemporary dance choreographer with whom I've done some projects before, invited me in early 2021 to be part of a long program that she had curated called Awe and Wonder, which was a collaboration with climatologists. So I was commissioned by her to create Bhumika by my company, Southern California-based Arpana Dance Company, and we were the only non-Western form to be represented in that program. So it was important for me to include all of the elements of Bharatanatyam, the form that I practice, and at the same time make it accessible to diverse audiences. Perhaps there is funding available for such performances through arts agencies or environmental organizations. And I am looking for funding to make this short performance a full length, live, as well as a film presentation.
I want to ask you a question whether at 18 minutes you feel that this may be a longer work, but were it to be shorter, it would get more inclusion in curations which are not so long as this one is.
The short answer to your question is it can be made shorter. The format I have now has a beginning, middle, and end. It was originally 15 minutes long as required by Donna Sternberg, but we made it a little bit longer by adding pictures from NASA and Google. So it is about 18 minutes long now. The visuals are very powerful, and it was important to include them, particularly to communicate this concept. Being a topic of global interest, significance, and importance, I'm considering expanding it into evening length, 60 to 75 minutes performance.
Shilpika, welcome to this special curation on environment and climate change. So my first question actually is pertaining to the choice of its name.
The first time I heard this word nescience was from a friend. And it reminded me of what was happening on the river systems of the world. Now, rivers have their own meandering quality and cycles of give and take. However, what is happening is a lot of rapid changes due to massive hydroelectric power projects and other infrastructural changes on the river. Now, this is creating a lot of conflict in this particular region, and everything cultural is in a way at stake. So hence, for me, nescience symbolizes that destruction due to the lack of understanding of what can actually save it. The river Brahmaputra, in its various forms and flows, is a life giver and a life taker. For me, the most persistent problem is ultimately the nescience, the ignorance. I guess for me, the biggest challenge is, like the huge amount of corruption, and bridges are getting built, and all the infrastructural things that are happening are not sustainable to the development of the place.
Very basic question next. How are the environment and culture related?
Nature inspires us, the environment inspires us, and what we encounter in the environment, that lens, creates the music, the material, the motifs, the designs, the dances. And if we go back, really back, then the word agriculture itself is, culture. So people and nature, the environment are so intrinsically connected, and the bonds and the kind of exchange that is possible between the two is phenomenal. And I think it's just about having that lens. And we have had that. It exists, that human and the non-human, that environment connection exists, but we lose it in this, in this whole superiority of being humans.
You are watching the conversation with dancers and filmmakers included in the curation Hot Theme for a Warm Planet. Our next filmmaker and dancer is Bindu Rajendran, who made this amazing film called Prithvi Tattvam, which you watched in the showcase. My first question to you, Bindu, even as I welcome you, is about the opening shot of this film, which has this grand vista view of the ocean with a diminutive dancer standing in front of it. It seems to convey instantly the title Prithvi Tattvam. So my question to you is about the selection of shots How did you imagine them? How did you use the landscapes that were available to you to do that?
For Prithvi Tattvam, it was a conscious decision to have the first shot coming in and the dancer initially being a diminutive figure. And you will also notice the same thing in the last shot where the camera actually pulls back and pans out to show the vastness of the earth. And both of these were conscious decisions because I wanted the dance film to be about the earth. In addition to being a dance film, the storytelling had to be about the earth, for the earth. With regards to choosing my shots or venues, I had great plans. I wanted to shoot near the river, I wanted to shoot near a port, I wanted to go on the mountain and shoot showing the mountain, but none of this could actually happen because when I filmed this, Brisbane, where I live, had the most restrictive of lockdowns. Unfortunately for me, I live near a very beautiful conservation area. So every venue or sequence that you see in the film is actually shot 5 kilometers from around my house. My husband was my videographer, and so we did do a lot of rehearsals to see the right light, to see how I could dance in that space, because some places had lots of thorns and stones and it was very difficult to actually dance on those spaces. So we did quite a few rehearsal shots and multiple venue seeking before we actually zoned in on what would be the perfect venue for each of these individual shots.
How is it that the Indian ideas of environment sensitivity that are contained in our texts match with the situation in Australia?
To be honest, I didn't have to think too much about environmental sensitivities at all, because the stories of the environment, of the ecology, of the earth that are told across nations, across people, are exactly the same. It is about preserving nature, it is about understanding the earth and living in harmony with the earth and nature around us. During my research for one of the choreographies I've done before on Manarshala temple, a temple in Kerala on snakes, I actually found this beautiful connection to the rainbow serpent of the indigenous people in Australia. The indigenous people have incredible connection to land that they call country. And between the rainbow serpent and the Nagaraja of the Manarshala temple, I actually found connections to water, to fertility, to women. And I have found multiple instances like this. So I didn't actually have to do anything extra, or I haven't actually done anything extra. In fact, if there was something I did that was slightly different, was only writing the poetry in English and presenting it as such, and then using the hand gestures of Mohiniyattam, which are slightly difficult to understand because it is a language on its own.
Bindu, dance films are a genre by themselves. But I find a lot of dancers today making a film part of their dance production. I wonder if you have ever attempted something like that.
Dance film for me is an accident that happened because of COVID. I would have never created dance films if it was not for COVID. So I've done a lot of dance films, and most of them are prepared carefully and created purely for the camera. Creating dance film, as you so rightly said, is a genre of its own. It needs a lot of thought process. So for instance, for Prithvi Tattvam, I did a lot of storyboarding, I did location seeking, I did look at weather maps to ensure that the light that came through was correct, because we couldn't shoot it if it was too bright or if it was too dull. So understanding all this is what dance film needs. So the choreographies that we use in dance film are slightly different, because you need close-up shots to focus on certain aspects of the storytelling, or perhaps the face, whereas you need to pan out, as I did in Prithvi Tattvam, to give life to a particular scene that you want to show. This is quite different to what we do on a proscenium stage, because it's pretty much just a straight presentation, and you don't have to worry about the landscape to storytell. So yes, I do think that dance film is a genre of its own. I have done a few dance films, and I'm hoping to continue in this space as well.
Thank you so much for sharing your work. Hello, Anjana. So, my first question is about the fact that you have used the poetry of the Bard of the Brahmaputra, Dr. Bhupen Hazarika, as the text for this work.
Well, this is a dance film based on environment. So I thought of doing on Brahmaputra. So how to do that? I can use simply instrumental music. I could have done that. But what I did, I had taken two poems written by legendary music composer, singer Dr. Bhupen Hazarika. The first one was Mahabahu Brahmaputra, Mohamilonor Tirtha, Koto Jug Dhori Ahisa Prakashi, Homonnoyon Ortho. It means the gigantic river body of Assam, the Brahmaputra. It has been flowing. We can witness the calmness in it. It has its own identity in the land of Assam. We have been growing up by seeing this river over the years. And the second poem, what I had used in this dance film is Bristin Napadore, Ohon Kojamare, Hahakar Huni, Nihobde Nirobe, Burhaluit to me, Burhaluit Buakio. It's Burhaluit, the Brahmaputra, we say Luit. It's Burhaluit. Generation by generation, the Luit has been flowing. It has its own pain, sorrow, still it is flowing. So actually I wanted to show you the river Brahmaputra, the scene, the banks of river Brahmaputra, the life of people. So what is happening in the river. In this two poem, I can see the identity of the gigantic water body of Assam, and in the next poem you can witness the hahakar. Hahakar means the violation, the sorrow in it. So I have taken these two poems.
What, in your opinion, are the challenges that are faced most persistently by the river Brahmaputra and its riverine basin?
Oh yes, there are major challenges for the management of water body Brahmaputra. The major problem of Brahmaputra is the flood. Assam is extremely vulnerable to climate change, and due to climate change, the flood happens. During the time of monsoon, the flood comes and it really makes havoc. And another issue is the waste disposal and the release of harmful chemical by the factories like oil sector. So it's a water pollution. You can witness in this dance film, I have taken some images from the river Brahmaputra about the waste disposal. So we need to create awareness among people for the management of the waste disposal. And in Assam, another issue is there that urbanization has been growing up. With the increase of urbanization, the water consumption has increased. So again, an issue has come in connection to the water body Brahmaputra.
Thank you for sharing your work for this curation. Hello, Surjit. I'm such a big fan of your work. I can't just stop being impressed by the aesthetics, the the beautiful treatment of the body, its movements that you incorporate in your choreographies. So, my question to you is my first question actually is about the fact that in Larin Mathik you have worked with another body. How does collaborative work sit with you, especially in a dance film?
Collaboration work is very interesting and very challenging because you're going to work with different ideas and the body. It depends on what kind of collaboration you are looking for. You can be interesting by similarity. Also, you can interesting by different ideas and different practice. So it can there is a lot of benefit from the collaboration, but also very challenges to create as a collaboration work. In this project, Larin Mathik, it's interesting to create with another body and mind because it's when you create, you can find different angles from the different ideas of the practice, and that's how you can find a new vocabulary or idea in the project.
You were telling me something very unique about the place you shot this film in. Would you like to share that with us?
Video, Larin Mathik, is shot at a Phayang village, Manipur. Phayang village has been known as the Indian first carbon positive settlement. We are blessed to shot the film in resonance with the Phayang forest, the infinite sound of the creature, the forest song, and the landscape merge with our infinite body movement.
Unhindered, unfettered, undisturbed quality of the environment is also sort of shared in a way with the dance in Manipur, dance aesthetics and dance kinetics that are indigenous to Manipur. Was this at all a concern that you were trying to carry forward in this dance film?
Whenever I create something, I always try to aware of the nature. Even though it's not a big step, but always try to keep in the small step. That's really help for the nature. And as an artist, I always believe, I think people also believe that nature is one of the resource that you can learn so many experience. And that is what we should not forget, that we should not try to underestimate the nature power. And that's what I always think, that we should not forget. Whenever you create, you always think about the nature every time.
You are watching the conversation with dancers and filmmakers included in the curation Hot Theme for a Warm Planet. Hello Dipali, I would like to first thank you for allowing us to use your work. I know that this work is part of a bigger work on looking within, looking around. Talk to me a little bit about why you made the big film and how you were able to extract the smaller section on animals.
Looking within, looking around was made to provide an experience to the audience, and I wanted the experience to be long lasting this time, in such a way that they can actually incorporate into their lifestyle. The changes that involve are both internal and external, and that is why so in the first half of the movie we just spoke about mental health, the second half of the movie we just spoke about animals, but especially in the second half of the movie we didn't really say in so and so words that you have to conserve or sustain in the movie, in the dance. We didn't talk about that. What we did was we just brought the animals into life in our body, and we did that on purpose so that you feel more connected. You're also reminded that you're living in this planet along with them, not just by yourself. And in the first half of the movie, we spoke about how breath and our emotions are connected, and how if we regulate our breath, our emotions also get regulated. So if you see from a human being's point of view, it's holistic, right? We're talking about within us and around us, and that is how I've connected the movie. But they also can be viewed separately. Right? If I just want to talk about what is happening around us, okay, I can just show the animal section. If I just want to talk about what is happening within us, I can just show the mental health. So we made it also that way, but we cannot, like, the whole intention is to provide the whole experience so that they really know that every action that they do has an impact, either within or around, or even both. So everything is a choice, and it has an impact. That is the reason why we made it as a whole film and not showed it separately.
My next question is actually a question to all four of the dancers who are featured in this film, and we are fortunate to have them with us, sharing their viewpoints and thoughts. And this is about the remarkable artistry that you all have shown as you created the movement patterns for the various animals that you represented, which are really in the format of a stylized realism. How did you prepare for it?
This is a very important question, honestly. We really wanted to bring the animal out, but also not make it. See, animals, if you just generalize them, all they do is walk, eat, fight, walk, eat, sleep, fight, walk, eat, run, sleep, fight. I mean, it's very on a physical level they do things, right? That's how we see it. So for us to do the same thing for an audience who also think and also show emotions, it looks a little monotonous. So we wanted to bring out a lot more layers, and that is why we made it stylized in a way where you see the animals at the same time, not just see the movement, you also see the emotions that are coming in the movement. Speaking of Sarah's Crane, for me, the bond that they have with each other and for the rest of their life, with that bond was something which really stood out for me. So I wanted to make it about love. So even the movements, I specifically chose a lot of karanas which show a lot of grace in the movements. I wanted to bring those layers, but within the structure of the Sarascrine's walk, the movement, the way they fly, the head movements, their neck movements, all of that, I wanted to bring that, but I wanted to get a texture of love in them, and that is why I chose Karnas. I spent a lot of time watching them. I spoke to 2-3 photographers, wildlife photographers who have shot and seen and spent a lot of time observing Sarah's Crane. I could actually feel it after a point, when you keep listening and keep watching and reading things about something, you live it after a point, right? For me, when I felt the bird within me, it was quite easy to sort of do it.
It is very common in any art form to portray animals such as elephant, tiger, lions, etc. When we came up with this idea, I wanted to portray this particular animal, hyena, and include a strong reason for it to hunt. As we all know, hyenas are scavengers, and in rare cases, it hunts their prey alone. In my choreography, it was to milk their young ones. Though I felt it would be challenging for me as a dance choreographer to portray this particular animal, as the human anatomy cannot justify the movements of this animal. I have selected this to convey the power of the motherhood. No language can purely express the power, beauty, and majesty of a mother's love. I believe animals express true emotions than humans. So I watched relevant videos and studied the characteristics of this animal and to blend the stylized movements and with realistic expression of this animal to justify my choreography.
So at first, keeping orca's nature and its movements in mind, I just let my body feel it and move like naturally. And then I found my arms acting as pectoral paddles of orca. Then I thought I should dance as an orca. Then I found myself doing few stylized movements, dance movements came, which were justifying orca's natural movements. So then I clubbed these two things. Then I would record to see if I was bringing out the exact image that I wanted to give. So then once when I showed my practice videos to Dipali, Nilabo and Atul, they said that I was looking like this small, tiny fish which is rapidly moving in the ocean. Then I was like, okay, I have to rework on this. This is very important. So I reworked on the weight and the control and brought that mightiness which orca has. And that's how.
If you really ask me to define the phrase stylized realism, I think my animal depicts it best. Because when I look at a gazelle, I can totally see the dance of its own. When they walk, they move with such poised head movement and upper torso, make it look so elegant. And their eyes are so expressive. Being a high alert animal, they express their fear, their awareness so gracefully. And their lips are really beyond any beauty. So what I'm trying to say is I didn't push myself and put an extra effort to make it more stylized. I was really careful to make a fine balance out of it and not harm what is there already. So I want to conclude my answer by saying that I think all creature in this world manifest the worldly dance so gracefully, and they are themselves the reality in a stylized manner. So all I needed to do is to observe.
You are watching the conversation with dancers and filmmakers included in the curation Hot Theme for a Warm Planet. Hello, Nehha. Thank you for allowing us to use your film as part of our curation on environment and climate change. Hot Theme for a Warm Planet. I have known you, Nehha, for many years now as a very fine Bharatanatyam dancer, as a person who has a deep and strong altruistic sense, and as an excellent organizer of events. Talk a little bit about your journey into dance films, particularly dance films around the environment.
Dance for me has always been a special language. I have performed it the world over, but what really gives me joy is empowering others through it, giving others an opportunity to dance as well at platforms they may not otherwise get, or in situations they may never be able to access, which is what led me to dance for many, many years, have events through Sarvam Foundation, teach underprivileged children through Sarvam Shakti, and ultimately start making some of these films as a part of this journey of sharing, empowering, teaching, educating through this platform. It is a natural progression.
Nehha, would you like to explain to us a little bit about using the snake as a central character of your film?
I absolutely love animals. And what is the animal's mistake of it being a particular animal? So a rattlesnake has a vibration of its own, and a butterfly has a vibration of its own. This philosopher Michael Singer explains it well. When a butterfly lands on our hands, we feel delighted. But the same thing, if we see a rattlesnake, we shiver. We're giving meaning through our ideas and conditionings and learnings to that particular animal. That animal is just being himself or herself. And so, if they are just them, and they're as beautiful as they are, why not show a mother-child relationship through a snake who we otherwise would fear based on all of the perceptions that we have. And that's what led me to make this particular movie.
I get a strong sense that you can use your films for educational purposes as well. Have you done some work in that direction?
The past few years I've been studying to enter into a new career space, and that is of personal development, healing, well-being. So there's coaching, consulting, counseling, and so on. What I realized with all of this is that I really enjoy telling stories through language, communication, dance. Dance has never been a profession, right, for me. So it is something that I use as a part of many other things. And so yes, a lot of these films have been used to kind of bridge that gap and ask people to think beyond themselves as well. And it has been used for educational purposes at different forums, conferences I get invited to speak at, but also simply because I would like to say a message and use this as a tool along with all the other tools that I use in my work.
Nehha, thank you so much for sharing your work. Welcome, Prachi, to this curation, Hot Theme for a Warm Planet. Your film Raftar Karo was premiered in Chakshu, which was a joint production between Kalpataru Arts and Kri Foundation last year. Now, by that time, COVID was upon us and Raftar had already slowed down.
As you rightly pointed out, yes, Raftar Karo did come to life during the pandemic. We knew that in the pandemic, the way things were going, we needed to slow down. And simultaneously, around the same time, I was also toying with the idea of exploring a ghazal with Gaurav Chopra. And then it so happened that during the pandemic, he composed the words written by Meenu Bakshiji, which is Raftar Karo Kam. And the composition just resonated with the situation so aptly that we just decided to go ahead and make this work. So yes, to answer your question, it was a realization and maybe a message as well, if the viewers have to look at it like that.
Is this concern about the environment a passing fad in your life, or are you committed to the issue of environment?
I feel all of us need to be ambassadors of the environment, and this cannot be a fad simply because we coexist, we live in this environment, and I feel it is our responsibility to even protect it. So one aspect is about our actions in our day-to-day lives, whether it means conservation of resources or being sensitive to the needs of the others in the society, which are, also equally important as compared to the bigger actions that are being taken by some institutions and organizations. And at the same time, I feel as artists, we have this extra agency where we can even influence and inspire people to take up these causes. So definitely not a fad, and this is something that I wish to continue through my art, through my day-to-day practice. In fact, the next project that I'm working on, it talks about indigenous tribes who are being stripped of their land, their environment for development. I mean, I'm sure there's a way where ecology and economy can coexist. So I'm just highlighting this same subject while I talk about the beauty of their existence. So hopefully my work in this direction will continue through that.
I've often maintained that the cultural ecosystem is as vulnerable as the environmental ecosystem is, or systems are. What do you think about it?
So when we talk about the cultural and natural ecosystem, as far as natural ecosystem is concerned, because I'm no environment specialist, but just a conscientious person, I understand what are the things that I can do to protect my environment, at least in the limited capacity of what is around me. But I look at the cultural ecosystem from the arts perspective. And I feel we are losing a lot of flora and fauna there. Especially during the pandemic, we are losing so many legendary artists. And somewhere I feel like the younger generation, we are the torch bearers, or we can say we are responsible for carrying forward this art. At the same time, without adding too much pressure, I also feel that if one is working with the right intent, with integrity, having the heart and mind in the right space, the work will continue. And looking at some brilliant young dancers who are doing this work, I feel the future of the cultural ecosystem is in safe hands.
Kri Foundation would like to thank all the artists, dancers and filmmakers, and the Pragjyoti International Dance Festival for giving us an opportunity to share our love for dance films and curate this DanzLenz.